All right. Hello and welcome to the Naked Patient Podcast. I'm Dr. Nicholas Howland. With me today, one of my very good friends, Dani Howard. Thanks for coming, dude.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
I don't know why I called you dude.
That's okay. That's kind of our relationship a little bit.
Yeah, that's our friendship. We're going to dig, listen, we're going to dig into our friendship because that's really what I want to talk about today. And kind of what we've been through that friendship.
Yeah.
But elephant in the room, this is a plastic surgery podcast. You have never been a patient of mine.
It's true.
You don't even get injected by me. You go to my friend Holly.
I mean, can you blame me though? Holly's incredible.
I can't. Holly Henry is amazing.
Yeah.
She's got a terrible, not very funny husband, Scott Henry, but Holly's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so you have had plastic surgery though. Do you want to talk and share? And
yeah. I think if you would have told Dani 7 years ago when I had it done, I was 25, that I was going to go on a podcast with a plastic surgeon who wasn't my surgeon and talk about it, I would have told you were crazy. So I grew up, I'm a very lean person. I don't have a lot of body fat. My nickname was Chicken Legs growing up. And if you could have had a negative bra cup size, that would be me. I think I was the negative A. So I have always just wanted to look feminine. I just wanted to be a little curvy. I didn't want to look like, Baywatch or anything, but sure. I just wanted to look natural to what my body would be had I been endowed with even a little bit. So I went for a really natural look, and I'm grateful that I did. And I have no regrets. And
how long ago was it?
7 years ago. Yeah. Okay. I was only 25 when I got it done. And
it's a perfect age.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Talking to the surgeon, I was a little worried about, when I have kids and I want to breastfeed and stuff. And he's like, that's okay. They're going to hold up, and then you're going to need maintenance eventually, and that'll be fine.
But I love that that's how you approached it though too, and how you said that you wanted to feel a little more feminine.
Yeah.
And that's my platform. Like, there's no vanity in plastic surgery when it's done for the right reasons. And for me, it's about self-empowerment. Like, wanting to feel more feminine is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I think, I love that you're doing this podcast because it is destigmatizing the thought of having plastic surgery and it being a bad thing, or it being about somebody other than what you wanted for yourself. Because for me, I wasn't dating anyone in the time. I truly did it for myself. I wanted to like how clothes fit me. I wanted to feel like a woman. And I have no regrets about that. But I do wish that I had not felt so much shame around having it done.
Sure.
And I mean that in that I didn't want a single person to know I had it done. I never told any of my family. So if they listen to this podcast, if somehow it makes it to them, cat's out of the bag.
Great.
But even my mom struggled with it. I'm not going to lie. She was the one that took me in for surgery, and I think she was a little mad at me, if I'm being fully honest. And I've chatted with her about that since that moment. She didn't come originally to the surgery with me. I drove myself there, and I came out of surgery and she still wasn't there. And so they're like, do you have somebody coming to get you? and then when she came in and she saw me and I just looked normal, she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I just wanted to look, like a little feminine, Mom. I didn't want to look like Pam Anderson. And but yeah, she dropped me off at home. I went and got my car like 8 hours later. Wouldn't advise doing that.
Oh my gosh. All of these things are making me cringe.
And then I recovered alone that whole weekend. And that is one thing that I wish I would have done differently, is openly talking to people about it, helping them understand my why, and having some support through that, I think would have helped my recovery, because there was shame that I was doing it. And so I was hiding it. And I got it done on a Friday, and I went back to work Monday and ended up getting my hair done that night. And I remember sitting in my hairdresser's chair, still didn't even tell her that I had had it done. I don't know why I was so afraid for people to know. And I remember being in so much pain because I also was not going to take any pain pills, which I never did the entire time. So I'm on, a couple ibuprofens and Advil here or there. And by the time I got home that night, I was like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah, you're even like hiding it from yourself.
I know. And then 2 weeks to the day of me having it done, I moved to Salt Lake. So then I physically lifted everything that I owned and moved to Salt Lake. Oh my God. Once again, I would not advise that. Give yourself time and space to rest and recover. Your body needs that. And my surgeon was awesome. I think the only thing looking back that I wish that he would have advised me on a little bit more is because I was so lean, it definitely pulling that muscle off my chest and putting something under there. It's kind of pulled my shoulders forward a little bit. And I've recognized that later on. And so I do a lot of yoga, but I have to make a pretty intentional approach to opening my shoulders back up. And that's partially I have bad posture, but a lot of people do. And I sit at a desk all day, so it's easy for you to hunch your shoulders forward. And so I will have some pain associated with that. So that's something I wish that I would have been a little bit more aware of, and I would have been making conscious effort to stretch my shoulders back out a little bit.
Okay. That's actually great. I don't think that we discussed that with any of our patients.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was just when I was thinking back on my experience, I'm like, I wish I would have had more support, but that was a fault of my own. I wish that I would taken it more easy than I did and not been the hero, right? Like all my friends told me, oh, you're not going to be able to be alone. You can't even open your pill bottles by yourself. And I'm the type of person that I'm like, oh, watch me. This is not going to slow me down.
It's like a challenge for Dani.
But yeah, and then that was the last thing is that I really wish that I would have been opening my shoulders a little bit, because I think it's really easy for you to kind of, especially if you're in pain, to kind of hunch forward and then it kind of heals that way a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Dude, I learned so much on this podcast just from it's making me a better surgeon.
I love that.
So I think it's helping patients who do listen and they pick, and that's why I title the episodes based on what surgery somebody has had, not anything else. So yours we'll probably title yours breast augmentation. And I think it helps somebody come on and listen and get at least a little bit of what that experience might be like. And I love that you talked about the shame behind it, because that's literally what I think my life mission is, or one of my life missions at least, is to remove the shame from plastic surgery. I was on a business podcast this last week. This gal met me at a plastic surgery convention a few months ago. It's called, I won't say the name of the podcast, but so she has only met me once. She comes on this podcast and she has done zero research on who I am and how I approach my patients. All you have to do is read my website bio or read my Instagram bio. And I told her, I don't think she said something about our vain profession. And I was like, I don't think there's any vanity in plastic surgery. And she looked at me like I had just said the most stupid thing that she had ever heard. And I was like, hold on, let me explain and let me tell you my approach. And by the end of it, I don't know, I don't think I changed her mind, but I at least showed her a different view. And I think one of the hard things with this platform, with trying to take the shame away from plastic surgery, with trying to make plastic surgery about empowerment and more normalize it, is the opposite side wants to say, well, hold on, we should be happy with our bodies. We should be accepting of our bodies. And I agree with all that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not suggesting that you don't try to just say, hey, I love me for who I am. But I also don't think you can throw out plastic surgery if you want it.
Yeah. And I think the platform that you have is changing, at least in our circle, and I'm sure, the outreach is probably huge, but I have had, one of my close guy friends come to me. He's on this big weight loss journey, and I love that he's posting it every day. He's at the gym, and he knew I was friends with you, and he's like, what are the chances that once I get to my goal weight that, that he'd be able to help me. And I was like, call him. Like
1,000%.
I was like, Nick is awesome.
And I see him at the gym every night.
Yep. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Right. But I think it's the fact he's putting in the work and he's changing his lifestyle, and he's like his whole mental health and attitude and habits and entire just like core being is changing.
Yeah.
And then if he wants at the end of it to take off some loose skin or, you know, suck out some problem areas, then I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
And Nick's your guy. Like, I refer so many people to you because I'm like, talk about someone who's not going to let you do something for the wrong reasons. Like, he's going to have an open, transparent discussion with you about why you're doing it. He's going to explain the risks and benefits. And I love how you talk about how you don't make bad billboards, except for the one, which is debatable.
Debatable.
You know,
I still love it.
Actual billboard.
I know exactly who you're talking about. And you are very good friends with him.
Yeah.
I really have only met and talked with him a handful of times in the last few months, but I've known who he is. And from an outsider's perspective, and I see him at the gym every night I'm there. It has been really cool to watch the changes that he's gone through that I've seen in just 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, he is physically, but also I would say like spiritually lighter. Like, he just, to me, 6 months ago, he just looked weighed down.
Yeah.
And now you can just tell he's really proud of himself, as he fucking should be.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's a mirror for me, because I went through such a similar journey myself. And so for me, I love to like go say hi to him and talk to him and tell him good job, because it also selfishly reminds me of, oh yeah, I fucking did that too.
Yeah. And I think I can say that I've seen you walk through a similar journey from the first time I met you to who you are now. It's a different person, and you are lighter, and you're more authentic, true self, which just allows you to vibrate at a higher level than you were before.
All right. So let's dive into that then. Since it's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
So we met for the first time a year and a half ago, about.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about a year and a half ago, and I didn't remember.
But I did.
But you did.
I remembered you.
So Dani and I met in a plant medicine experience. So we had a journey with several people, and before you do one of these plant medicine experiences, everybody kind of goes around in a circle and talks about their intentions for the night, what they want to get out of this medicine. And I had no idea what I was going to say that night. Yeah. I had thought about it. I had been planning for this for weeks. I was scared as hell. I brought this girl that I was dating at the time, and I didn't know what I was going to say. And I think she was hesitant to be there. She wanted to support me, but she also didn't understand how this was going to help us. And so we were both scared. And so when it came my turn, everybody's going in a circle talking about their intentions, and everybody's saying things like, "Oh, I didn't think about that at all." And just something kind of hit me right out of the blue. And I said, well, okay, here's my intention. I spent 14 years of my life dedicating my every being to climbing this mountain to become a plastic surgeon. And this was, a year and a half ago. So I'd been in practice for 4 years, and it was like, 4 years ago, I did it. I finished and I achieved. And I just have not known in the last 4 years, what's next? Like, what's the next mountain?
Yeah.
And, one of our friends, as soon as I said that, he's gone through some similar experiences in his life. And he was like, dude, I want to talk to you about that tonight. That's awesome. Let's talk. And we went through the night, and I didn't really get anything in regards to that question out of it. I didn't know, I didn't come out of that night knowing what my next mountain was going to be. And so, sorry, I'm hijacking. You feel free to jump in anytime. I want to tell my side of this, and then I would
please do.
And then I want to hear like your kind of from your experience what it was. So fast forward a year,
almost to the date.
Almost to the day. It was
crazy.
scary, almost to the day. And I was again in a plant medicine journey. This time, not with this person I was dating. We had broken up.
And I remember walking in and I said, "You're married, right?" And you're like, "No."
Nope.
Because I just assumed at the time, like you guys had a very closed off energy. Like you and I did not interact that first night. It was both of our first experience, which is kind of funny. And yeah, I just remember throughout the year, I'd see your face on the screen, you know, on I-15, and we even ran into each other that one time in the Austin airport, and I came up to you and I was like, "Hi," you know,
I still didn't put it together.
I was like, I was at, you know, that one evening, and you're like, "Oh yeah," you know, and I remember being uncomfortable approaching you, but being like, no, when you choose to go into that environment, there's just kind of a camaraderie, I guess. And so I was like, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and I'm going to say hi. So now fast forward to the year to the date, pretty much of the first one.
So we were in this journey again, and I would say we were about halfway through the night, and we were all kind of sitting around the couch talking, and you finally were like, "Nick, you don't really remember me." And I'm like, what do you mean? Sure I do. And you're like, "Nick, I was at your first journey." And I was like, "Wait, really?" He's like, "Yes, I was at your first journey, and I remember your intention." And at that point, I think I had forgotten what my intention was. And I said, "You do?" You said, "Yeah, I've actually thought about it a lot over this year. And you wanted to know what your next mountain was. And I just wondered if you ever found your next mountain." And I looked at you and I was like, "God, you know, I never really did." And then this is one of those moments where I fully believe in the power of this medicine, because it was like you could feel the neurons in your brain just make a shift, like this sudden left turn, and it's like the biggest light bulb in your head goes off. And I kind of sat up and I was like, "You know what, Dani? I'm the next mountain." Like me. Like I've never worked on me in my entire life. I've put it towards medicine, towards family, towards friends, towards everybody else. And this is the first time in my life that I'm starting to work on me. And our friend who was also there sits up and he's just like, "Yes, yes, finally."
Yeah.
And dude, I can't tell the story without crying. That was such a catalyst for change in my life. And I think the rest of that night, I immediately was like, "Oh my God, I love you. You are one of my favorite people in the world. We're going to be at least really close friends forever." And it was huge. So I know I've thanked you for this before, but thank you.
I'm also like, it's hard for me to hear your side of it and for me to not get emotional, because to me, I sometimes feel like, well, I don't know why you feel like I helped you so much, because I don't know. It's just something that it came to my mind numerous times. I'd see your billboard, I ran into you in the airport, and I'd think, I wonder if that guy ever figured out what his next challenge in life is. Because and you and I connect on the healthcare side of things. We're both in healthcare, and we can understand how easy it is to really lose yourself in medicine, because you do feel this like responsibility to help people. And no one goes into medicine unless they're like willing to lose themselves a little bit in it, because it's kind of it can be a thankless job, and it's long hours, and it's seeing people at their worst often. And so if you forget to take care of yourself in that, it can lead to, you know, some bad habits and some poor mental health challenges and stuff. So when I see your billboard, I'd be like, I really love follow up on that. And so for me, a year later, and you're like, I didn't even remember that. How did you remember that? And I'm like, I don't know. It just seems easy. Like, it's just been in my mind a lot. But part of me just thinks that when you take the conscious choice to go down the road of bettering yourself and putting yourself in that uncomfortable state, that can sometimes be initiated through different journeys, that you really almost like align with one another. And it's like, okay, all this time's going to pass. And then right at the time when Nick really can and will be committed to changing his life, you're going to be there, and it's going to flip a switch in his brain. And I just knew from that moment, I was like, this dude's serious. When you said you were starting 75 hard, I'm like, no questions asked, he's finishing it, you know? And I even remember a month or two later, another situation we were in, and some of your guy friends were like, I got to go check on Nick and make sure Nick's okay. And I'm like, Nick's fine. Nick is good. You were like, thank you for seeing me. And I just feel like because we started our friendship in that, we saw each other's souls, as hippie as that sounds.
Yeah, no.
And I was just like, he is a rock solid, good human, and he's going to go on to do amazing things, and he's going to help so many people. And so I guess I'm honored that you feel like I was even a small part of that.
You're a huge part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And I have seen you grow and change so much, and just since the time we met too.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the grow and change journey then.
Okay.
So, cause I want to hear what you have done. Like we were supposed to go have dinner and just like celebrate all this change we've done. And for some reason I was like, why don't we go on a podcast?
Yeah, let's actually celebrate in front of the whole world.
This is like our celebrating our changes over the last year. And so for me, I came out of that journey, and I started 75 hard, and a few weeks later I went to Turkey. And you came to Turkey with me.
I did.
So this was I love our trip. I love that we had it. I love that you came with me. I learned so much on that trip. I probably should not have invited you on that trip.
And I should not have invited myself on your trip.
But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Exactly.
Like, that's what I want you to understand. We probably should not have done it, but I would not change it for the world, because I would not have gone to Cappadocia. The trip would have been dramatically different. Yeah. And we had such a cool trip. So, okay. So let me back up.
And I remember feeling guilty that I was like, I changed his whole itinerary, but I was like, Nick, realistically, you're not going to want to be up all night, then do a red eye, and then drive 8 hours. Like, this is, and you're like, you know what? I think you're right. So for me, I felt bad that I feel like I hijacked your itinerary. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So let's go back to this trip. So we end this journey. I start 75 hard. I am dedicated to working on me. I'm coming out of this deep depression I've been in. Mm-hmm. And I've had you and several other really close friends like rally behind me.
Yeah.
But I was at the start of the fucking race. Exactly. Like it was
and
right
I recognized that. I knew you were at the start of the race. And I also knew that you were just out of a long relationship. And I was like, Nick needs to be Nick in order to figure out who Nick is.
Oh, yeah. And so I had this Turkey trip planned. And I had it planned for a long time. I was going out there for a conference on rhinoplasty. And I was going out several days early because I wanted to do a little bit of Turkey on my own. before the conference. And you and I went out with some friends a couple weeks before the trip, and we were drinking wine, and you were telling I didn't even know how much you liked to travel. Yeah. And so you were talking about all this travel that you've done, that it's usually with like a big group of guys that you travel with.
It's always a group of guys. Girls, you got to start traveling more. Cause I did Africa with 8 dudes this fall, which I love them, but I would love a girl or two to join.
Yeah, Dani needs an adventure partner with a vagina to join her. So just get some feminine energy in there with her. So we're talking, and you were like, oh my gosh, Turkey's on my bucket list. I would love to go on that trip. Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, you should just come. Just come. And the next day, you sent me this text like, were you serious? Because I've been looking for flights for like 3 hours.
Here's the problem with me. People, if they like kind of just throw out the idea of like, oh, you should come. If it's a flight to an international destination, I'm down. So like, you have to be careful about throwing those things out to me. If it's just like something close by, that's usually the ones that I have a harder time committing to. But I don't know. I'm at 47 countries now. Everywhere's on my list. And Turkey, awesome. I'd already had flights to Turkey before and ended up having to divert to a different country because that's when the troops were pulled off the Turkey-Syria border, and they were kind of blowing each other up for a minute there, and felt a little unsafe because I try to responsibly travel. I'm not going to purposely put myself in danger, but also know that the way that the media portrays certain countries and the safety level is very different from all of my experiences I have had. And I have felt more unsafe in downtown Salt Lake at night than I have in, Central America at times.
You have to be smart. Like, we're not going to go down back alleys at 2 a.m. in Turkey. Although we'll get to that. I think I did once.
You probably did after I left.
So, you and I, so I'm just like, yeah, you know what? You should come. And part of me really wanted you to come. Mm-hmm. And part of me, as I've learned moving forward, is just terrified of being alone.
Yeah.
And to all of a sudden be presented with this option of, oh, I don't have to go on this trip by myself. yeah, absolutely. You should come. And so I felt terrible because that's where a lot of it came from, is just me being terrified to go do it alone.
Yeah.
Fast forward from that, 6 months later, I had a trip to Nashville planned, and I talked to my life coach, Melissa.
Who's also my life coach, by the way.
She's amazing.
She's changing our lives.
And she's like, hey, you're going to go on this trip to Nashville alone. Mm-hmm. Because you never go on trips alone. And I'm like, yes, I'm totally going to do it. We hang up. I immediately called 2 people to come with me. First girl said no, she couldn't make it. Second girl couldn't make it either.
Good.
And I literally had to do, universe made me go on this trip alone. And it was great. And I had a good time. So we're back in Turkey, and you end up coming to Turkey with me. And you had way more international travel experience than I did. And I've done a fair bit of travel, but not a ton.
Well, you're kind of busy in that thing called medical school and residency and,
I feel like I'm trying, I think a lot of people look at me and are like, what? You are always traveling. You're gone all the time. I feel like I'm making up for it almost.
As you should. You deserve it. And honestly, I have just decided to own that I'm the person in the office that is going to be gone for 2 weeks in Africa. And I'm not going to be reachable because I'm going to be on the Zambezi River trying to not get eaten by a crocodile, Yeah. And I have that's probably one of my biggest advice to people in life is that it's never going to be convenient to travel. It's never going to be a good time. Mm-hmm. You're never the stars are just not going to align, and it's going to be a perfect 2 weeks free. The work that I have to put in before I go on a trip and after, it's sometimes I'm it's an entire month.
Yeah.
By the time you get yourself ready for a week, you're going to be gone for 2 weeks, and then you've got the catch up for a week and you're jet lagged and stuff. But, the thirst and the desire I have to see the world outweighs the discomfort and the inconvenience of it.
Yeah.
And it probably stems from the fact I grew up in a town of 5,000 people and I just didn't get to see anything growing up. So now, as soon as I got a taste of the world, I was like, I want to see it all. I want to know everyone that's different than me. I want to learn about every culture and why they believe what they believe and eat their food and meet their people and see, like, the world is so cool. I don't know.
So our turkey trip was really, really cool. Like
we did some awesome things.
So listen, I was going to go to Turkey and rent a car because that's kind of been my past experience. Because I enjoyed driving a country, and that's one of my favorite ways to see it. However, I did not realize how big Turkey was.
Huge.
And so there's a city called Cappadocia. I don't even know how to pronounce
I think we still don't know for sure. We've been there and we're still undecided.
And so it's built into these caves, and they do this incredible like hot air balloon rise every morning. Literally hundreds of hot air balloons are in the sky at sunrise. And Dani you told me about this place. It wasn't even on my list.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, if we're going to Turkey, we have to go to this place. Like, sweet, I'll get a car. And you're like, hey, do you know how far that is? It was like a 13-hour drive. And that was just to the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, we can't do that. So we flew into Istanbul. Then we hopped on a plane to Cappadocia when it was delayed and we finally got there. And I had just started 75 hard. And it literally was like day 6 or 7. And so those travel days on Sahara are the hardest because you're supposed to do 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. And we landed in Cappadocia and it was like midnight. And I was like, Dani, I still haven't worked out outside. And you're like, dude, I think you've been walking and working out enough today. You're fine. And I was like, I don't think I can, Dani. I gotta get this in.
And that says a lot because I'm like someone that I believe in hard work, and that's never been, a difficult thing for me. So for me to be like, no, it counts. Like, we walked miles through the airport today. You were like, no, I've got to go for a walk. And I respect that so much that you were committed to this.
Yeah. And I think maybe I told you this experience the next day, but so I just started walking from this hotel, and that was when I got to this dark alley and there were like 3 dudes in the alley. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be walking. And so I kind of went back to the hotel, and the hotel was high up on this hill.
Oh, everything's in hills, right? Like the cars, sometimes I was like, I don't know if the car can make it up this.
Oh yeah. They were super steep cobblestone. And so I just started going up and down this hill to the hotel. And I was exhausted, and I got back to the room, and it had only been 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh, so what am I going to do for 15 more minutes outside? And the moon was out. It was like a full moon, gorgeous outside. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to do some friggin' jumping jacks and push-ups and go look at the moon in between these sets. So I did like a set of that, and I walked over and I looked at the moon, waited a minute, came back, did another little set, and I walked over, and it was like the 3rd set in, and I go over and I look at the moon, and I just got hit with this wave of pride, like that I had never felt in my life before. And I was like, holy shit, like you good job, man. I'm proud of you, and I like you.
I like this version of me.
And that experience was life-changing for me. That's when people ask me about the whole 75 hard thing. That was the moment that I knew this has changed me. This has helped me. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, 75 hard won't change you. 75 hard. There's downsides to it for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, I got so much out of it that I never would have otherwise.
I love that for you.
Because it's not about getting jacked or
no,
getting healthy. It's a mental marathon.
I think it's just developing healthy habits and mentally proving to yourself that you can do it, that you can decide to do something and you can stick to it, even though life's going to make it so it's difficult for you to stick to that practice. And I think that something that was difficult about our Turkey trip is like, we had both kind of had these aha moments very shortly before. And I think both you and I at the same time clicked that it's like, we're committed to changing our lives. We're committed to becoming the best versions of ourselves. But that path looked different for both of us.
Yeah.
So you went down the 75 hard path. I feel like my whole entire life's been a 75 hard. It's been a rat race, and I have been so hard on myself my entire life that I really felt like you need to slow down and you need to be kind to yourself, and you need to just develop healthier habits versus beating yourself up 24/7.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people go through that, right? Like you're trying to stick to a diet and you cave and you eat out. And so you just beat yourself up. And I would like punish myself with exercise and different things. So it's like, I've got to change my whole perspective. So I kind of created my own program in my mind. I remember talking to you about this. And
I love what it's called.
Each other.
I love what it's called.
I did 90 days of nice, and I did something that was nice to myself every single day. And sometimes that was, I went for a 20-minute walk instead of getting on this meeting today that completely drains my soul. Or, I got my nails done. I don't know. Just like it was a whole wide range of things. And I started journaling, and my commitment in that time frame was to really develop what is important to me and what habits do I want to develop in my life. Because 75 Hard's kind of all about developing healthy habits.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what does that look for me? Like, what can I pull from all these different programs and kind of cater it to me specifically? And so at that point in time, I was really trying to harness in what's my morning routine and what's important to me and what healthy habits can I start slowly introducing. And it's a marathon. It is not a race. Like, you do not change yourself in 75 days. Like, that's the start to you changing your life. Same with me, 90 days of nice. That's just like the start of an entire lifetime worth of figuring out what works for you. And I also think that it changes with time. Yeah. Like, it's not going to be the same in 5 years as it is for you right now. Like, your needs are going to shift. So.
Yeah. No, one of my habits from 75 Far, I still walk for 45 minutes.
I love that. I know. And I walk every morning too. Yeah. And like, we flew out to New York for 24 hours the other day in order to meet our Delta status and see New York at Christmas. And it's like bright and early. And I'm like, no, I got to walk today. Like, I start my days off so much better if I walk in the morning. Much.
I missed mine this morning, and it was the day has felt just different, like just more chaotic.
And to that point, it's like, I've had to realize, don't beat yourself up, because there are days that, like the other day when I woke up and there was a foot of snow outside, I'm like, it's not happening today. Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
And so it's okay. Then I'm going to like put extra attention on doing a yoga flow or something, and like moving my body and like kind of, cause like, I think you've mentioned that your walks are a little bit meditative to you. Mm-hmm. And I think it's similar to me when I go for my walks in the morning. First thing that I do is I do my gratitude practice. So that's something Melissa's taught me is 10 things I'm grateful for. First time I wake up in the morning, because it's just like almost rewires your brain to think in a healthy way instead of being like, oh, I'm tired, I didn't sleep well, my back aches. You're like, I'm so grateful that my back hurts because it meant I played volleyball last night and I love to play volleyball and I had a great time, so it helps to change your perspective. And so if I'm not, so it's kind of like having cues that initiate that gratitude practice, whether it's getting in your car, whether it's going for a walk. And so if something does throw that off, then I just make a mental note of like, oh, well, if I'm not going to get on my walk this morning because there's a foot and a half of snow outside, then I'm going to do a yoga flow and I'm going to do my gratitude practice then.
I love that. Yeah. For me, like I don't beat myself up about it. I recognize that my day that I missed something that I really love in the day, but I'm going to the gym later tonight and I know that I'll still be fine. The 90 days of nice thing I love. I can't remember if I was doing this in Turkey or not. I got this journal that It's very typical. It's intended to help men journal. It's called the Mind Journal. And so like the first 30 entries are all prompted. It tells you kind of what to write about. And then on one side, it's got you write down your intentions, your achievements, your gratitude. But then it has this little extra thing called the happy hour. And every day you write in it doesn't have to be a full hour, but you do something that is just for you. And that you're going to love or look forward to or be grateful for. And it can be go to the gym. But it can also be, and for me, a lot of times it can be have a glass of wine and do the crossword. 'Cause I love that.
Yeah.
And so that was like my sort of version of 90 Days of Nice, where I was just like, every day I'm going to do something that I can look forward to, that is great for me, and that it brings me so much joy.
Well, and I think for a while there, we, like, as we're both really starting on our own paths, we kind of became each other's accountability buddies. So that's probably another thing I would recommend to people. If you're like serious, find someone else that's also serious, because there's a lot of people that are on a path, and it's a lot easier when you have someone that's like genuinely rooting for you and wants you to succeed just as bad as they want themselves to succeed. And so I would check in with you sometimes and be like, what did you do for yourself that's nice today? And you'd be like, I did this, or I didn't do anything today. So it almost like prompts you to do that. And same with me. And I remember there was a day I texted you and I was like, I'm really sad today. And I don't know why, because there are just days sometimes that you're sad, and that's okay. But recognizing, okay, who can I talk to about this? And then how do I have a better day tomorrow?
Yeah.
And so I was really appreciative for you in that, that you were really my accountability buddy. And it's like, we're both serious. We're starting on this. And so now it's kind of been nice. We don't touch base as much, but I was really excited to touch base with you, to be like, tell me all the great things that are happening for you. Like, what were the wins of 2022? And like, what are your biggest goals of 2023? I think that like having someone that's going to listen to your goals as far out as they seem and be like, hell yeah, Nick, you can freaking do that. Yeah, you need that. You need those people in your life. And if there's someone in your life that says one of your goals is stupid, or they make fun of you for it, then you need to check yourself as to whether that person should be allowed access to you or not.
Yeah, you need cheerleaders. You need somebody who can. I love catching up with you when we catch up, because you cheer me on. You're like, dude, you are crushing this podcast thing, or you are killing it here. And it's so nice to have that positive affirmation from friends who genuinely care and cheer you on. Because if somebody's not going to celebrate a win in your life, that's not somebody you want in your life.
Well, and I want to receive similar feedback. So I've kind of stepped over this belief that I had for a long time, that I didn't bring anything to the table, that I had imposter syndrome like nobody's business. And I still do. Like I still battle with that all the time, that it's like, why is Nick going to care about my opinion about this podcast episode that he did? And I'm like, no, people care. And I think that, to bring a full circle, the experience of me remembering what your intention was that first journey and how life-changing it was to you, sometimes the things that you remember about people or the things that you're thinking of can be life-changing, even though you don't think it is.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to make a really conscious effort to reach out to friends when they pop into my mind. Yeah. Or celebrate them when I see something that they're doing that's really well. So, I think it might have even been Whitney Rose's episode I sent to you, and I'm like, this episode was amazing. Yeah. Like, awesome job. And I sent one of Jimmy's, I can't remember his name. It's Land something. And it was the most authentic I'd seen Jimmy in a podcast, especially comparing to his first episodes that he did. I was like, Jimmy, this episode was amazing. And you're your most authentic self. And I learned so much. And so, Jimmy has 1 million people that are celebrating him, but I still want to go out of my way to celebrate the people that I care about. And I hope that they do the same for me.
Yeah. I owe you a better job. I really do.
Oh, no.
No, I'm like, dead serious. That is something that I struggle with, right? I struggle with reaching out to people and giving them the same, and then it's for the same reason. It's for
you feel like
imposter
you're gonna
syndrome
people.
but you know what? They need it. Like,
I know, I'd always think that. I'd be like, oh, I should call this girl because I've been thinking about her. She's probably busy. I don't want to bother her. And it's like, no, bother them.
yeah,
Because that's like, people have a lot of heavy stuff going on in the world. And to know that someone's thinking about you, it could just completely change someone's day around. And so I still to this day struggle sometimes with like sending that text message or just picking up the phone and calling them. And it's probably a fear of rejection on my own part too, that it's like, you know, if I reach out and I'm like, hey, how's this going? Is that gonna seem too nosy of me or something, you know, even though it's like, I just genuinely like want to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that's probably going to be one of my biggest strong points for 2023 is like acting on that even more when someone pops into my brain. Cause I think that the universe pops those people into your brain for a reason. And so
well, I'm going to add that to mine. No, I
love that.
Legit. All right. So tell me, let's wrap up with our big goals for 23 because we talked about it and we came together to celebrate each other and to talk about these goals. Tell me what you've got. What are you planning?
I have a lot of career goals that I'm working on. I do risk management and patient safety improvement for one of the healthcare systems in the Valley.
Okay, which sounds like the most boring, awful job in the world. Dani is a rock star at her job. Dani has implemented systems that are being taken on nationwide and is literally changing the healthcare system for the better. As a physician, so Dani's created a system that helps address safety issues among physicians, and this, as a physician, has been a horrible system for years and years and years. If a problem happened, you had to get up and present it at this M&M conference called the Morbidity and Mortality Conference. And you, as the doctor, are basically put in front of your peers where you explain your problem. And then all of the older attendings just rip you to shreds and tell you what a piece of shit you are. And that was how we solved problems in the healthcare system for years.
Insane. I remember my first M&M meeting. I wanted to crawl under a chair. I was like, please don't see me in the corner because I'm scared. And knowing that doctors had to feel that way, I can't even imagine the dread that you guys had going into those meetings.
It's awful.
So we've really tried to take a human-centered approach and like a caring and learning approach of like, how are you, Nick? This is probably really hard for you. Mm-hmm. And what do you need? And what do we need to do for the patient? And, you know, what went well in the case? That was something that was exciting that we've started doing is, let's talk about all the things that go right. And why do things go right 99.99% of the time? Not just like looking at what went wrong. And also like really monitoring the equity factors. How do we bridge the gap of, you know, social determinants of health and outcomes? So, there's a lot of work that I'm doing with that. There's a lot of committees that my team's participating on, like state fatality reviews of suicide and domestic violence and different things. So, and I think that's maybe what's hard is I can't openly talk about a lot of the work that I do.
Yeah.
And that's okay because I know that it's getting done and I know that we're trying to just make the state a better place, honestly. And I think that Utah has an amazing healthcare system, actually.
Oh, phenomenal.
And the people who choose to do healthcare in Utah are awesome. So a lot of big goals surrounding publishing and presenting and, you know, having a more active approach in those conversations community-wide, not just within our organization. So I'd say that is one of my biggest goals. I started an Airbnb last year and I love it. It's in Malad, Idaho, of all places. People are like, who would stay in Malad, Idaho?
I once dated a girl from Malad, Idaho.
remember us talking about that, which is where I grew up. I grew up on a cattle ranch, so that's another random thing about me. But I would like to start another one because I've really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed that. So that's goal. And then I actually have started trying to do different YouTube videos and different things on my love for travel and also my love for this healthy lifestyle that I've adopted, because for me, I just want everyone to be able to travel and see the world. And I want everyone to, I guess I think so highly of the people who have gone before me. Like the Jimmies that are kind of pioneering this path, like, hey, this worked for me. I got a life coach and I did this and this is how I set goals. And I think it's slightly lacking on the female side of things. There's a few different ones that I follow, but I would like to, I don't know, I guess just like also tell people this is what's worked for me. This is what's led me to be what I find is the most happy and authentic version of myself. And
that's the next step. That's really what the continuation of the changes we've made is because for a long time I had this fear of like, how do I maintain this? Am I going to be able to maintain this? Because I know that I'm never going back to that old version of me, but I still get that anxiety about, okay, maintaining this or continuing to improve this. And I think that next step is teaching. It's sharing what you've done. And then you learn even more as you start to share what you've done and what's worked, and you help others come along that same path.
Exactly. And I think that our community that we're building is going to make it so none of us can go back to who we were before. And so that is actually another focus area, is like really prioritizing and making a conscious effort into investment in my community and my people that are celebrating me and are on that same path, because I find the same way with you, that it's like, once I love you and I am in your corner, like, you've got a friend for life. Like, I want to know about all your wins. I just want to celebrate everything that you're doing. And I see you as family now. Like, family isn't just blood to me anymore. It's this group of people and these humans that I'm so grateful that I'm with. Yeah. But I will say, my hardest goal for 2023 is I'm trying to cold plunge twice a week.
Oh, gosh.
I hate being cold so much, which is why I'm like, I have to pick something that's going to mentally stretch me so much. And that's it.
I love that. I like the cold plunge. I like a sauna so much better. I have no problem doing a sauna every day.
Yep.
And I like an uncomfortable, sweated out 20-minute sauna. And there's more science behind the sauna anyways, so I just stick with
I'm trying to do both. But yeah, I've told myself, if I can mentally overcome the cold, because I hate the cold so much, and I can do it twice a week, because according to Huberman, the most benefits you get is 11 minutes a week. So I'm doing about 5.5 minutes each time. I'm hopeful that the rest will seem easy.
Trips. Come on.
So I have friends getting married in France in May. So I'm going to try to tack on a couple countries like Switzerland when I go out there. But I have friends that we're going to try to replicate Jimmy and Trav's trip to Saudi Arabia.
Oh, dope. Okay. I have a good driving map for you. Okay. If you go to France, you'll hit 7 countries.
Well, oh yeah. You've told me about that trip. Okay. I would love that. And then I'll definitely be picking Trav and Jimmy's Saudi Arabia trip, because I don't know, there's something exciting about safely and responsibly going into countries and cultures that are just so foreign to us.
Yeah. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for coming on today.
Well, wait, what are your biggest goals of 2023?
Right. Okay. I'll share my goals too. So I have some financial stuff that I am I really want to focus on dialing in.
Smart.
Financially where I want to be and where I am. That's actually like a big weakness for me is, and I'm a very typical doctor where I was just in poverty, wondering how I was going to eat for 14 years, to all of a sudden having a very successful practice. And I'm like, oh, look at me. I can fly first class to Paris now. Let's do that. Like, and so I'm literally making every mistake that they tell you, don't do this. And so I really want to dial some of that in so that it's better.
Everyone can do that. That's been a focus for me too, is that it's like, okay, just because you have it, you know.
Exactly.
And you don't know where the economy is going. So I think it's smart for anyone to set themselves up to have just that comfort zone.
I have a lot of trips planned.
Yes.
So we do trips with We Are the They. We have Spain and Running with the Bulls.
Yes, and Jimmy's hit me up about that trip because I did that this summer. And yeah, we'll have to chat about that.
I'm terrified.
As you should be.
Because I've seen your videos.
Insane in person.
And we have a trip to Peru in the fall. Cool. And then I realized over Christmas break, I got to have my kids on Christmas. This is the first time in 6 years I've had just me and my kids on Christmas Day. No other person I'm dating, no other person's kids. It's just me and them.
Love that.
And I realized during this break that my daughter is 15. I've got like 3 years left.
Gonna go fast.
And so it's this year is experiences, no more things. It's all experiences. And so I want to take them on a huge trip every year. Fun. Until she's can't. So Thanksgiving, we're going to go to Singapore and Bali.
Good. And
then my son Rockwell turns 12 this year. When Isabel was 12, I took her to London and Paris. So I've been telling him ever since then, dude, when you're 12, you get your big adventure trip. He loves history. So he has picked this trip.
I can't wait to hear what it is.
He wants to go to Amsterdam and see the Anne Frank house.
Okay.
He then wants to take a train to Poland and see Auschwitz.
Wow. And
then he wants to train through Germany and into Austria, and he wants to see World War II history. And
that is incredible. What an old soul.
Oh yeah, I'm like, that's gonna be a heavy trip.
Yeah, you're gonna have to schedule in some bright parts there.
Maybe put Disney Paris in between or something. But I love that's one of the things that I love about him, and I'm gonna just encourage and let him run with that. And so we're gonna do that.
I love the differences in your kids and that you honor each one of them for how different they are.
Oh yeah, they crack me up. And
You're such a good dad, Nick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I might cut this part out. We'll see. This might just be for me and you. And I have this new relationship that I'm very slowly allowing myself to be in. And because I still think there's a large part of Nick that needs to really be Nick and work on Nick. But this is the first relationship that I've jumped into fully honestly, like since I've been divorced.
Yeah.
Meaning after I got divorced, I developed this really unhealthy habit of having like 3 or 4 different lines in the water because I didn't want to go through that heartbreak again. And so as long as I had options in my back pocket, nobody could hurt me.
Yeah.
And it was a shitty way to live and a shitty way to do relationships, but it was a defense mechanism that makes sense.
Everyone has their own defense mechanisms when it comes to that and to dating. And it's, yeah, I mean, I've gone through all of them. I feel like I'm uniquely 32, a female in Utah that's not married. So but for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm finally truly ready and I've become the person that I want to call in. Yeah. It's like I finally hit that point where it's like, okay, you've got to become the partner that you want to attract. Yeah. And stop self-sabotaging yourself. That's what I'm recognizing I've done for a long time is like I wasn't truly open and I was always preparing for the worst. Yeah. And you don't experience life that way. It's like the whole Brene Brown, like the brokenhearted people are the ones that are truly living because they allowed themselves to be so vulnerable to have that experience. So trying to tap into that in 2023 as well.
I will say I'm so grateful for, I don't think we can end this podcast without addressing this, but I'm so grateful for you for setting that boundary on the trip to Turkey.
Yeah.
So whether we include this in the podcast or not, like, I want you to know that you realized, and you said this earlier, Nick needs to be Nick, and he needs to focus on Nick. And you put up this boundary. I was going to that Turkey trip, still hadn't fully worked on me. And I was like, if something happens with Dani, cool, we'll see what happens with Dani. And that would have put me right back into every situation I had jumped in post relationship. And so you put up this wall where before the trip, you're like, dude, I need you to know that this trip does not mean does not mean anything. We're just going to go have a good time in Turkey and we're going to be friends. And I told myself I was fine with that. And then we got on that trip, and I think a little bit of me was like, not angry, but a little bit of me was just like, oh, what the heck?
It's a weird energy.
Yeah.
And I felt the weird energy too, but I'm like, I know that I'm doing the right thing. I know that he needs this time alone.
Yeah.
And he needs this time to like really dive deep into him. He can't continue to put energy into everyone else except for himself.
Yeah. And so I want to tell you thank you for that, because and apologize for any bad energy that I had around it, because I didn't know.
No, and
I wasn't ready, and I didn't know.
A long time, because then I get avoidant, and I slightly avoided you because I was like, I know eventually we're going to be able to talk about this, and we're going to clear the air of this weird energy, and we still would chat, and we still would check in with each other, but it was like we weren't addressing the elephant in the room, but we knew we would eventually, and I didn't know it was going to be on a podcast, but
I didn't know it was going to be on a podcast.
That's conventional. So
well, it's so funny because I would text our friends Mark and Michelle.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, guys, like, nothing's happening.
and you know, they all so badly wanted it too, because we all bonded so much. Mm-hmm. And same with the other couple that, you know, is good friends with us, and they were all rooting for us, but I was like, you guys don't understand. Like, it's just not time.
Yeah. Well, and so then, like, you and I do food very differently.
Oh, I know. Sorry about that.
Don't be sorry at all.
You are someone who just like truly enjoys like the experience and the intricacy of the meals. And I'm like, I eat because I have to live.
Uh-huh. We have very different mindsets on this. And when you travel, so Dani and I go to a restaurant in Cappadocia, and I had spent, because this is how I travel, I had spent an hour of my time. What is the best restaurant? What is the most authentic, best Turkish food that we can go have? And all the restaurants have menus outside. And Dani looks at this menu and goes, dude, can we just go somewhere with a salad? And I'm like, are you fucking serious?
Me and my vegetables.
We're in Turkey. We're in Turkey, Dani. And you're like, but I just didn't know it was going to be all meat. I'm like, they only serve kebabs. That's it.
Which I'm reintroducing meat into my diet a little bit, because I recognize that I needed more protein in my life for sure. So
I think the tipping point of it was we're at the Hilton Hotel and we're having like bastardized American food at the bar, and you are eating a Caesar salad. And Dani goes, I just haven't really been impressed with the food this trip. Have you, Nick? And I go, I don't know, Dani. I haven't had anything Turkish this trip. Have you?
I'm dying. We did have a lot of baklava, though.
The baklava saved us.
The baklava slaps.
And it saved us, because at the end of every meal, by the time I was like boiling with rage, we could at least have baklava and be like, oh, this was nice.
I know, and I fought a previous relationship for that, because I would travel with him and he was like, why do you need to eat and sleep? I don't understand. And I'd be like, those are kind of basic human necessities, you know? I need a tiny bit of sleep and I need just like a little bit of food and I'm good. But he was like a machine. He could go without sleep. We would like share a sandwich and I'd be like, can I have my own sandwich maybe? But, so I think I picked up some unhealthy traveling behaviors where it was like, no, if you're going to travel and you're going to see everything in that country that exists, you can't eat. There's no time to eat. So I'm sorry about that.
Don't be. I'm so glad that we got to that point. And we did it live on a freaking podcast.
And we're rambling.
I know. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I love you too.
I do. You're one of my very best friends in the world. And yeah, you weren't just a small part of that change. And I hope that I have become some sort of catalyst for you as well.
You've been a big help to me, and as well as your group of friends. And normalize saying I love you to each other. I love that.
I do a lot of it.
Good.
Thanks, Dani.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to The Naked Patient Beyond the Operating Room. I'm Dr. Nicholas Howland. Please remember that every patient who appears on this podcast has consented to discuss their story and their surgery on the podcast. That way we remain HIPAA compliant. This is a free podcast. The best thing that you can do for us is to leave us a review online. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you'd like to hear. Let us know how we can improve. If you are curious about anything related to plastic surgery, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Dr. Nicholas Howland, and I typically respond there, or you can reach us at the office at 801-571-2020, or we have an online form you can fill out at the website, www.howlandplasticsurgery.com. Any of our coordinators would be happy to help you. Thanks again for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Naked Patient Podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode. Till next time.